way simpler than you'd think.
Hope everyone's doing great. We are getting into the holiday season. So as woodworkers, we typically start doing some gifts. And this is actually a super simple project that you could really do with some sort of jigsaw or a coping saw or a bandsaw. And really just, you could use sandpaper. But the idea is I'm gonna make these kind of natural flowing looking organic charcuterie serving boards, and I want to show you the process that I went through to make these boards and just how simple it is, but just the dramatic impact you can get from this style of board. So I've roughed out my shape just with pencil, just to kind of get an idea of what I'm looking for, and I'm just going to come back with a black marker and just kind of finish off the flow that I like.
With all my lines drawn, I started rough cutting my cutting boards into more manageable pieces. Like I said, you could do all this work with just a jigsaw, but there's two tips I want to share with you. The first is make sure you get a good quality, high teeth per inch blade. And second, take your time. If you push the jigsaw too hard, the blade will flex and it won't track properly. Next, I need to remove all the bark. I've seen guys stabilize bark with epoxy, but this walnut was so dry, the bark was basically falling off. One of the projects I'm working on right now is a proper workbench. As you can see, my assembly table is not the most sturdy for this kind of work. For a majority of the boards, I did switch over to my bandsaw just to save a little bit of time. I had several of these boards to do, so this cut my work time down quite a bit. These longer boards did not fit the best on my 14-inch bandsaw, so I kept having to maneuver myself around the boards as I was trying to change the angle of my cuts. Remember kids, safety glasses work 100% better when they're actually covering your eyes. Good one, Chris. Some of the voids were just too deep to fix with CA glue, so I cleaned the areas of any kind of dust or loose bark and added some tinted epoxy. After covering the top side of the board with tuck tape, I filled from the underside with the epoxy. I find it a lot easier to deal with any overflow or any voids pouring from the backside versus the front. The next day, the epoxy was dry, so I was able to remove the tuck tape. Here's a sneak peek of the new workbench. These scrapers are fantastic for removing any of the extra epoxy. From there I moved on to rough sanding and shaping the boards. An angle grinder with a 40 grit flap disc can remove a ton of material pretty quickly, so it's perfect for this kind of work. For any small voids, I always reach for CA glue. My go-to CA glue is Starbond. If you haven't tried their products yet, I'll leave a discount code below so you can give them a try. I moved on to adding a heavy roundover to the handles on all the boards. It was at this point I realized that I forgot to add the hole in the handle. I did not want these to look like perfectly round holes, so I came back with files and sandpaper and reshaped them just so they would mimic the natural flow of each of the handles of the different boards. Then I could get back to routering. At this point, I was finally ready to move on to sanding, and I sanded all my boards to 120 grit. Then I sprayed everything down with a bit of water just to pop the grain. I'll explain why this is important in just a little bit. If this is your first time visiting my channel, I really want to say thanks for checking out the work I'm doing. It takes a lot to make these videos, but because of the support that I've gotten from this community, it just keeps motivating me to keep going. If you like what you're seeing, I'd really love to see you hit that subscribe button. Thanks, guys. With the boards dried, I sand everything up to 400 grit. Alright, this is why you grain pop. When the boards get wet for the first time, all the fibers are going to stand up on end. If you weren't grain popping, the first time someone, say, washed the cutting board that you just made for them, all those fibers would stand up on end, and all the work that you'd put into finishing it so it has a nice smooth finish will all be for naught. So grain popping and then going through your grits for final sanding will leave you with a way better finish at the end. My go-to finish on these boards is a blend of beeswax and mineral oil. I've left a link below to the blog article my wife wrote about how she makes our board oil. I actually really enjoyed making these boards. It was a great weekend project. Let me know in the comments below what you're making this year over the holidays for gifts. I would love to hear some inspirations from you guys, because next year, while I don't think I can give away another cutting board, or serving board, this is one of those projects that I really think anyone can do with very minimal tools, but it's a gift or something for yourself that just has a really high visual impact. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. If you made it this far, again, I super appreciate the support, and I would love to see you hit that like button or subscribe to my channel. To make life easier for you, I queued up a couple more videos here for you to check out. Thanks, guys.